and welcome to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. I'm Erin DeVos, and I'll be your host for this season. Join us for insightful interviews that explore the work of up-and-coming independent filmmakers from all over the world. If you're passionate about film and keen to learning about the creative process from the future cinema greats, this podcast is a must-listen for you. Our mission is to provide listeners with the engaging and informative conversations about successful and innovative films, including features, shorts, documentaries, animation, and web series from across the globe. The DCIFF Film Chat Podcast is a unique opportunity for independent filmmakers to have their voices heard in a way no other film festival can provide. You can listen to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast on all podcast platforms or visit our website at DCIFF-indie.org/DCIFF-podcast. Thank you. Hi, Film Chat fans. Welcome again to another episode of the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Erin DeVos, and diving into my next interview, I am talking with Kelvin Phillips, who is the director and filmmaker of Music for a While. And it's an incredible film. It's all music and no dialogue, which I thought was a very unique perspective for film, and also the way that it moves you through the music. And I'm so excited for you guys to listen to the interview, but a little bit about the film before diving in is the story tells of a homeless man's past life and how it affects how he sees today. So I'll give you that little bit of summary, and also without giving too much away about what the film is, but to introduce you to Kelvin, who he is as a filmmaker, his years of experience, and also talking about his production company, Bridging Stories. I very much enjoyed our conversation, and here we go, and let's dive in. Welcome, Kelvin, to the DCIFF Film Chat Podcast. This is now day 3 where we're interviewing for the DCIFF Film Forum. And so just very excited to meet with you and to talk about your film Music for a While.
Thank you, Erin. I'm really, really excited to be here. Have I ever done a podcast before? I don't know, but let's pretend like this is my first one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm super excited. I actually was at this film festival, DCIFF, believe it or not, 10, 11 years ago with a feature film. So this is kind of like a homecoming of sorts to me, and I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to chat a little bit about that to see how that film's going, too.
Totally.
Yeah, so to start out, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and the nominated film?
Sure. About myself, I actually went to school here in DC. I went to Howard University, where I majored in film directing. And then I got a master's at Tisch School of the Arts, NYU. So I've been at this for quite a while. I've done features. I actually, early on in my career, focused mostly on writing. And in fact, I got my master's in fine arts in dramatic writing, screenwriting, storytelling, just on paper, basically. But then about 10 years ago, I got interested in actually directing myself. So I did a feature, and I've done a number of shorts. At the same time, I've raised a family, raised 2 boys, got married, and held down jobs. So it's always been not a side hobby, a side gig. We have consistently tried to monetize our filmmaking through our company, Bridging Stories. Me and my producing partner, Carla Jackson, who will be at the screening tomorrow. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself. I grew up in South Jersey and spent a lot of time in New York and other places, Austin, Texas. Did the LA thing for a hot minute for like 4 years. And now I'm back in the New York City area. So
nice. Yeah. So well-rounded and a full circle moment, going to Howard University.
It's like a coming home of sorts.
Yeah.
In fact, the Hilltop of Howard University's newspaper. Do we still say newspapers nowadays?
I call them newspapers, yeah.
The Hilltop, Howard's publication, they're actually sending a reporter to cover our film tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and I love the name. You mentioned Bridging Stories. Is that your production company?
Bridging Stories is our production company. We like to bridge the gap. We say bridging the gap between dreaming and doing. But more importantly, what we really like to do is bridge the gap between all the differences between people in all the ways that we nowadays are in the middle of, right? And we like to bridge the gap between art, different ways of expressing art. So it's not just films. My producing partner actually works at Yale, and she's big in theater. She's a marketing person, PR person like yourself. So we do theater, dance. I try to write a blog every now and again, but mostly we're trying to tell stories about people whose stories are not necessarily being told out there, and just interesting stories. I love sci-fi, so sometimes I'll go out there as well. But what we try to do through Bridging Stories is to sort of put things out there that people might not necessarily have heard about, or they hear about, but they don't really spend a lot of time on. Case in point, Music for a While is about a gentleman who's unhoused, who's on the street. And what we get from that, I'm not trying to give too much away because I want the audience to go see it. But what we get is a reveal of who this person truly is, not who we see on the street, like we see in all of major cities and, all across the world, basically. But, who the human being is. And that's actually what we explore with our short film.
Ah, well, that's wonderful. And the fact that it's, in a way, your production company is a reflection of the story that you're trying to tell, in the sense of like, for Bridging Stories and your film, are they kind of intertwined, or did one influence the other? Or just knowing you have other films too, but
Right. So
what inspired you?
yeah. So what we try, that's a good question. What we try to do is to vet the stories. I mean, I'm always writing. I was actually writing on my way down here on the train. It's just a short that I was actually ideating on. But we try to always approve, if you will, the stories that we move forward with that actually have something to say about humanity, about how fractured we are, but also how beautiful it is to be alive and the ways that we can bridge the differences between us. So the stories that we tell always have something to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stretch sometimes, but we try to actually have stories that actually have some meaning in that way.
Yeah.
So basically, what happened is Bridging Stories evolved before we actually had a name, based on the fact that Carla and I like a certain type of storytelling. And then we said, well, what could our company be called? And it became Bridging Stories.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another, like, in a way, full circle, but being able to, branch out to others. Yeah.
Great. Great. Yep, that's right. Hmm.
And then, yeah, so in relation to that and how the production company came about and also your story, how do you feel in the sense like where the industry is going?
Ooh, I like that question. Like I said, I've been at this for quite a while. It's okay if I date myself because I don't care. I'm actually loving the fact that when I started in film, you could not, you couldn't shoot a film on your camera. That didn't exist because film was celluloid. You couldn't edit on an app. There was no such thing as an app. In fact, I edited my first short that I directed right out of grad school. I edited it on what's called a flatbed. Some people in the audience will know what that is. It's an old fashioned plate. So it's like you can have a 4-plate flatbed or a 6-plate flatbed or an 8-plate. And then you roll you put the film on there and the audio, and you're just literally cutting it and looking at it through a little picture. And then they also had moviolas as well in Hollywood. So it's a very slow process. But that said, there's something really tactile about it that actually it just makes you really kind of become really one with the film in a weird way. One of the things I had to get over with editing myself, I edited our last documentary and I edited Music for a While, is the idea that you're editing now almost like you're doing anything else on the computer. But then, getting used to that became interesting in itself. And then it has its own dance, if you will, of how you cut and how you play around with the technology. To answer your question, I think it's a fascinating time in that there's so much content out there. Back when I was in film school, and early on in the 90s when I was in the industry or tried to be in the industry, the barrier to entry to make a film was really high because it was expensive. You know, you could do a 10-minute film and it could cost you $20,000 simply because you have to buy the film, you have to develop it, blah blah blah. Um, you could do a 10-minute film. Literally, you and I could do a 10-minute film of what we're doing now, talking on the podcast, and cut it together and
Yeah.
put it on social media by 2 hours from now. It became a really different challenge, but it also scaled everything up in that there's so much content out there, and that causes a lot of challenges for filmmakers like myself. In that,
Hmm.
how do you break through the noise? How do you get your film seen? And how do you compete, frankly, for the audience's eyeballs and ears? So it becomes all about storytelling and all about the stories that you tell that touch the audience beyond the technology.
Hmm.
So you pretty much have to just tell a fierce story. You have to tell a story that people really really want to hear about and engage with. And, you know, it's a cliche, but a great story could be told on a phone. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You don't need, you know, two, three cameras, you know, all at one time, or Reds or IMAX and all of that. So you really want to vet your story. You really want to make sure that the story you're telling is one that's true to you, because if it's true to you, it's going to touch other people. It may not touch everybody, but it's going to touch other people. So I love that challenge. That still lives. When I got out of Howard University's undergrad and went to Tisch Schoolyard's dramatic writing program and focused on screenwriting, first of all, I did it because I could not afford to go to get my MFA in film, because I couldn't afford to make a film and pay tuition.
Hmm.
But what I learned is that you have to have a great story. You have to have a great story before you have anything else. And that was a proving ground to actually those 2 years at a dramatic writing program with people who are my friends now, who are doing very well and just learning how to, you know, just writing a lot and just learning how to actually tell a good story. And not just a great story that's 120 pages or 90 pages, but a great story that's 5 pages. Or in the case of Music for a While, the script that we went into production with was 7 pages long.
Hmm.
The final film is nine minutes long, but it was 7 pages. We have to figure out how to tell a story in that time frame that people actually want to engage in.
I was say you bring up such a great point, because some of the other filmmakers I was discussing about too is how, some of these mainstream films are either being like remade or reproduced, and in a way, like, I'm getting tired of it. And like,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
why I love like the independent film forum for being able to bring so much of these independent stories, and
right.
not only independent stories but stories that we can all relate to. And I hope like that only bigger audiences can immerse themselves in these.
Right, exactly. I just came from the Moving Images Research Collective at the Library of Congress. They had a special tour for some of the filmmakers, and I met, it was like 5 of us in there, all filmmakers at this festival, and everyone's film sounded really fascinating. Everyone had an independent spirit, all age groups, you know, all races. But we're all here because we have a story to tell, and we're going to tell it.
Mhm.
And I love that. You know, no one is trying to do anything but tell a great story. So this is very exciting. And this is not a festival that feels like I'm here to get a deal. I'm here because the Hollywood arm is here, and I might strike a deal here. It seems like it's really well curated just from looking at all the films. The films that are in my block look really interesting. It looks well curated, and I know from experience, having been here in 2012 when it was an extremely well curated film festival at that time, that the DC Independent Film Forum is well curated, and I know it's going to be some really amazing films here, and I look forward to seeing them.
Oh, well, thank you. That's so great. And you brought up also fun thing that we haven't really mentioned on the podcast too is part of the film festival or the film forum too is that we put together tours around DC and the ways that we can all connect with each other that much more, like from the filmmakers brunch to the Library of Congress.
Yeah, we ate afterwards. We were like, "Hey," I said, "Well, I have a podcast to go to," and they said, "Okay, I have 30 minutes." So we went into the cafeteria and we just all sat and chatted and exchanged our social, and we just connected. And
Yeah.
it was great. I've literally been here for like 5 hours, from the train, and already, I'm beaming. I've been up since 3:30 in the morning, and I'm just really happy because the energy here is already feeling right, even with yourself.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just great. It's just exciting, and it reminds me of why I have been doing this for some 20 something years, because at the end of the day, putting something that you ideated in your mind and actually execute on and putting it in front of an audience that is here not because it's the next blockbuster, because they're here because they want to actually see good storytelling, and to do that in the applause or lack thereof. It's always a great thing of like, okay, we did this thing. All of us here at this festival, we did something, we made something, and we all are sharing that moment over these few days together, because it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Oh, well, wow. That really rounds out the whole weekend and like your whole experience. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate you joining me
No
today.
worries,
And,
yeah.
similar to the other filmmakers, how can we follow you and follow your journey?
Oh, well, easiest thing to do, audience and Aaron, is to follow us on Instagram. Well, first of all, you can follow us on our website. Our website is Bridging Stories, all one word, bridgingstories.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Bridging Stories Film, at Bridging Stories Film. And yeah, that's the easiest way you can see what we're up to. You can actually look at our earlier films, all types of good stuff.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to it and seeing your film tomorrow.
It's tomorrow at 3
Yeah.
o'clock. Yeah, yeah. So,
Excellent.
all right. This has
Well,
been awesome. Thank you for having me again. I've been super excited, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this festival.
and the rest of the festival turned out so amazing for Kelvin and his film because they had won the short narrative spot for music for a while. Congratulations again, Kelvin, and thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the DCIFF supporters. We could not be here without all of you to be sharing this amazing outlet with filmmakers from around the world. If you are interested in supporting DCIFF, head on over to our website through the link description in the bio of this episode, or you can go right to the website, which is DCIFF-INDIE.org, to connect with us and learn more about our Future of Film programs, our festival, and also more educational opportunities in what we do with our high school students, community, and beyond. We look forward to your support.